I never thought I'd find myself in a hospital bed, surrounded by the eerie glow of monitors and the faint scent of antiseptic. But here I am, lying in the dimly lit room, with shadows dancing on the walls like specters from another area. It all started when I fell ill, a nagging cough that wouldn't go away. I brushed it off at first, thinking it was just a cold. But as the days passed, my condition worsened. Reluctantly, I made my way to the hospital, hoping for a quick fix and a speedy recovery. But as soon as I stepped through the doors, a sense of unease rushed through me. The hospital seemed deserted, the usual hectic corridors eerily silent. I shrugged it off, chalking it up to the late hour, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The nurse who greeted me at the front desk wore a wired smile, her eyes darting nervously around the empty waiting room. She hurried through the intake process, barely making eye contact as she handed me a stack of forms to fill out. As I sat in the uncomfortable plastic chair, pen in hand, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. It was as if unseen eyes were boring into my very soul, sending shivers down my spine. Finally, the nurse led me to a small room tucked away in a forgotten corner of the hospital. She muttered something about overcrowding and shortage of staff, but I barely registered her words. All I could think about was the oppressive atmosphere pressing down on me like a suffocating blanket. Alone in the room, I tried to make myself comfortable, but the harsh fluorescent lights and sterile surroundings only added to my unease. Every creak of the floorboards, every distant sound made my heart race with fear. Hours passed in agonizing slowness, each minute stretching into eternity. I tried to distract myself with my phone, but the battery died soon after I arrived, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the ever-present sense of dread. Just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, a soft knock sounded at the door. Relief flooded through me as a doctor entered the room, his white coat pristine against the sterile backdrop. He seemed friendly enough, with a reassuring smile and gentle demeanor. But as he examined me, I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. His touch was cold and clinical, his eyes devoid of warmth or empathy. After what felt like an eternity, he finished his examination and left the room without a word. Alone once again, I tried to push aside my mounting fear and focus on the promise of treatment and relief. But as the hours turned into days, I began to realize that something was terribly wrong. The nurses avoided my gaze, their footsteps quickening whenever they passed my room. The other patients whispered in hushed tones, their words filled with fear and suspicion. I tried to dismiss their words as paranoia, but the nagging feeling of dread only grew stronger with each passing moment. It was as if the hospital itself was alive, its walls pulsing with evil energy. And then, one night, I saw it. A shadowy figure lurking in the corner of my room, its eyes gleaming with malice. I tried to scream, but no sound escaped my lips as it drew closer, its form flickering like a candle in the wind. Terrified, I tried to flee, but the door was locked tight, trapping me in the darkness with the sinister presence. I closed my eyes and prayed for it to be over, but when I opened them again, it was gone, leaving behind only a lingering sense of terror. In the days that followed, I pleaded with the nurses to let me leave, but they only shook their heads and muttered about protocol. It was as if I was trapped in a nightmare from which there was no escape. And then, just when I thought I couldn't take it anymore, I woke up. It was morning, and the sun was streaming through the curtains, banishing the shadows and dispelling the last traces of fear. For a moment, I lay there, trying to shake off the remaining effects of the nightmare. But as I glanced around the room, something caught my eye. A faint shadow in the corner, just like the one from my dream. I blinked, and it was gone, leaving me alone with my thoughts and the chilling realization that sometimes, the horrors we face are not confined to the realm of dreams. And as I lay there, listening to the sounds of the hospital coming to life around me, I couldn't shake the feeling that the nightmare was far from over. As the days passed, the hospital seemed to descend further into chaos. Strange occurrences became commonplace, with equipment malfunctioning and patients disappearing without a trace. Whispers of something sinister lurking in the shadows spread like wildfire, fueling the growing sense of unease that hung over the hospital like a dark cloud. I tried to convince myself that it was just my imagination running wild, but the fear gnawed at me like a hungry beast, refusing to be silenced. I became hyper-aware of every sound, every shadow, jumping at the slightest movement and fearing what lurked just out of sight. But it wasn't just me. The other patients seemed to sense it too, their eyes wide with terror as they huddled together in fear. Some whispered about ghosts and curses, while others muttered about experiments gone wrong and dark secrets hidden within the hospital's walls. I tried to rationalize their fears, to find a logical explanation for the strange occurrences that plagued us. But deep down, I knew that something was terribly wrong, that we were caught in the grip of forces beyond our understanding. Then, one night, it happened. A blood-curdling scream echoed through the halls, piercing the silence like a knife. I bolted upright in bed, heart pounding in my chest as I strained to listen for any sign of danger. The scream was followed by frantic footsteps, growing louder and closer with each passing moment. And then, without warning, the door to my room burst open, revealing a scene straight out of my worst nightmares. A figure stood in the doorway, bathed in the sickly glow of the overhead lights. Its features were twisted and contorted, its eyes burning with a malevolent light as it advanced towards me, arms outstretched like claws ready to strike. I tried to scream, to call for help, but my voice was paralyzed by fear as the figure drew closer, its presence suffocating me like a weight pressing down on my chest. I scrambled backwards, desperate to escape, but there was nowhere to run, nowhere to hide from the horror that lurked in the darkness. And then, just as it seemed all hope was lost, a voice shattered the silence, cutting through the darkness like a beacon of light. It was the nurse from the front desk, her face pale but determined as she confronted the figure in the doorway. With a flicker of movement, the figure vanished into thin air, leaving behind only a remaining sense of dread and the faint echo of its chilling laughter. I collapsed to the floor, trembling with fear and relief as the nurse rushed to my side, her words a soothing balm to my crummy nerves. In the days that followed, the hospital was plunged into chaos as rumors of the supernatural spread like wildfire. Patients fled in terror, staff members resigned in droves, and the once bustling corridors fell silent as the grave. But even as I walked out of those haunted halls, leaving behind the nightmare that had consumed me, I couldn't shake the feeling that the horror was far from over. For in the heart of that hospital, something evil lurked, waiting to unleash its terror upon the unsuspecting souls who dared to enter its domain. And as I glanced back one last time, I knew that the nightmare was far from over, that the darkness that had consumed us all would never truly be conquered.